Welcome back into another Summer Shootaround episode. Hey, however you're listening, in your dorm room, in the car, doing dishes, on a run, I'm a podcast run listener. That's how I usually do it. Yard work at the gym, however you're doing it. Thanks again for taking the time to, carve out part of your day to listen to our show. We appreciate that. And if you're not, I try to mention this every so often. If you are like me and you get your podcast for the most part, you listen to them on your phone, go ahead over to the YouTube channel for CBS Sports College Basketball. Subscribe there. It really does help the show. Or if you are watching us right now, I'll get to that guy right there on the right part of the screen in just a second. And you don't usually listen on the phone, find us wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Overcast, Amazon, wherever. Subscribe, rate, help the show. We appreciate it. Today, we've got another episode on a Blue Blood lined up. We're going to talk Bill Self's Kansas Jayhawks. It's been a turbulent couple of years for the program, and there's a lot to get to here. Kansas' status in the sport, I'd argue, it's up for some debate, and what is probably, almost definitely the winter of Bill Self's career. I think this could be a pivotal season in determining the direction of Kansas through the end of the decade. Fortunately, I've got the right guy to talk to. My guest today was, at one point, the best hooper in all of college basketball media. I'm not sure if he still holds that title. Maybe we can determine that before the show's over. But he's a terrific writer, a lousy tipper. No doubt about it. Can juggle with one hand. People don't realize that. And has jousted in the press room with me for one of the last writers to file in the dead of the night. He has covered Kansas hoops for more than a decade. As a national college basketball writer for The Athletic, ladies and gentlemen, it is CJ Moore. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Lousy tipper. Where's that come from?
Snuck that in
there. That's hurtful. Thanks for having me, Matt. It's an honor.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Seriously, I asked you because you're as well versed on Kansas as just about anyone I know, and there's a lot to get to here. And you were actually at Bill Self's media availability last week, which was his first since he had a heart procedure this summer. Floor is yours. And for our audience that might not be aware, just a quick catch up on takeaways from the presser, the health issue that Self actually had, all of it. And then we'll get into, you also had a recent sit down with a new staff member down there in Lawrence.
Yeah, I was there last week with Bill. I would say if you were somehow under a rock and didn't realize that he had the procedure and you showed up that day, you wouldn't have known any different. Like, he seemed like himself, looks good. I was, strangely enough, with him the day that he went to the hospital. I was there in Lawrence visiting. That's when I reported the Jacques Vaughn story. He seemed fine that day. So can't say I saw that coming, but I think that, Bill's obviously had a lot of, decent amount of health stuff the last few years. But I think he's in a pretty good spot and seems to be doing well. Said he could coach the team tomorrow if they had a game, and I believe that. So I think Kansas fans can kind of breathe a sigh of relief when it comes to his health. That he's still only 62. It's not very old. I think he's gonna be all right.
You were there, though. He had with the school, when they released this a few weeks back, Bill Self wound up having a couple of stents put in to help with blood flow, but they called it, I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't have the direct thing up in front of me, but, a disturbing or a concerning incident, basically the day that he was prompted to go to the hospital. Were you actually around him or within the vicinity when that happened, or had you left at that point? When
I had left. I had
okay.
left it. I'd been with him earlier in the day. When I got the random tip that had happened, I was like, I was just with him. I don't think so. So that was a surprise, but I think that he seems to be doing pretty well from my, I'm no doctor, but we sometimes like to play them in the media game. But
the only doctor on this podcast is Gary Parrish. Let it be known. The only one.
Dr. Parrish.
Harmless speculation. How much longer do we think Bill Self will coach Kansas?
I think I would say 5 to 6 years. He'll be 63 in December. I don't think he makes it to 70. I think it's possible. I mean, I think he really loves coaching ball, and um, there's just some guys that don't want to retire, but I think he does want to retire at some point. And I'd kind of be surprised if he hits 70. So I'll go 5, 6 years. What do you say?
If you said 4.5 years, I think I would take the under. There are some in college basketball that just have kind of wondered if it was coming relatively soon, like this past year, year prior, this upcoming season. We'll see. I mean, the fact that he said he's feeling better now than he even felt when, remember, Self couldn't even coach in the tournament a couple of years ago. And now he feels even better, I think is a really good sign. You sat down with Jacques Vaughn, who obviously played at Kansas, has plenty of experience coaching in the NBA, and now he's on staff there in Kansas. I'll point our listeners and viewers to go find that story at theathletic.com and read that, but let's spoil a little bit here. What's the story about? And did you ask him, is there a succession plan in place? Because whether Bill Self coaches 1 more year, 3 more years, or 7 more years, filling his shoes will be near impossible considering everything that he's been able to do there. What were the big takeaways with your sit down with Jacques?
Yeah, well, when it comes to succession plan, I thought that was an important question to ask Bill, and especially after what happened last month. So I made it a point to pull him aside the other day after his press conference and be like, hey, this is something people speculate on, that Jacques maybe got hired for this. What do you say? And he says, and I believe him, and he looks you, dead in the eye and like, hey, I'm only 62. I hired what I thought was the best guy. I don't have any thoughts of a succession plan. So I think he saw, it's something he talked to me about before he even made the hire, that I think he was really excited about the fact that he was going to be able to possibly land a guy who had been the head coach in the NBA multiple times, and a guy who was a Jayhawk legend the fan base absolutely loves. So I think, he got really excited by the possibility of just bringing him on as an assistant. I don't think this was a succession plan type of deal. Now, when the day comes, and if Jacques still around and is still an assistant coach, I'm sure he will be in consideration. I'm of the belief when you're a Kansas, when you're a Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, those programs have all gone in the family recently, but I think you go out and you hire the best possible guy you can get. If you determine that's Jacques Vaughn, great. But I wouldn't limit yourself to in the family when you're a program with the resources and the history of a Kansas. Bill Self obviously really wasn't in the family. Roy Williams was not in the family. Now they had a little bit of in the family connections, but not exactly. So I think you just go hire the best coach, and if that's Jacques, we'll see. But who knows? In a year from now, maybe Jacques Vaughn's back in the NBA and decides, that's his calling. That's where he wants to be. But I think he's, very interested in the college game, and is, really excited by the opportunity.
Yeah, I think Kansas getting Jacques Vaughn on its staff, I think, is a real big boost. There's a lot just going on connected to all this stuff. Even as we tape this, Kansas is going to bring aboard Tony Bland, who was at Washington this past season, was previously, on a show cause connected to the FBI investigation back, in 2018. But he was essentially cleared of all of that. And I know there was extensive double checking, triple checking to make sure all was good there. I don't know if that will be announced by the time this podcast publishes and goes live, but Norm Roberts retired, and now Kansas has made some changes on its staff, and as it pertains to Bill Self and his future, I know some Kansas fans were gripping because the Kansas's bar on an annual basis is higher than anyone in college basketball, or at least it has been. And yes, I am including Kentucky and Duke in that. And that is evidenced by what Self was able to do and has been able to do for the majority of his time there at Kansas, the streak of winning all those Big 12 regular season championships, which we're never going to see ever again in major college basketball. It's a streak that will not be broken. And now we've got a twist here in terms of roster changeover. And Kansas fans started, I think, not fairly, but understandably started to wonder, like, does Bill still have it? Because the past 2 years, the prophecy was fulfilled. They were the preseason #1 team 2 years in a row. They've never made the Sweet 16 every single year that's happened. And you see what failed to become with those two teams. And there's been some real angst and some frustration. In 2024, KU got a 4 seed, but was 27th at KenPom, lacked any and all depth. We know the rotation issues there. They couldn't fix it last year. 13 losses, the most ever under Self. 7 seed, the worst ever under Self. They had the worst 2-year run in program that the program had seen in decades. And by some measures, it was actually Kansas's worst 2-year run in essentially 40 plus years. That's what we're coming off of here. They got knocked out by 7 points against Arkansas in the first round of the tournament. They didn't even get a win there. Right now, although it could be on the upswing or in the offseason, this is the nadir of the Bill Self experience at Kansas. Again, the bar at Kansas is higher than anyone else. There are plenty of high major programs that if they had a 2-year run that Kansas has just had, it would be more than acceptable. Not the case here. 22-19 against Big 12 opponents the past 2 seasons. The Hunter Dickinson thing, he had some good stats. It did not correlate to winning on a big-time level. The offense a season ago failed to crack the top 50 in efficiency at KenPom. Between him, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and other pieces, they just fell well short, CJ. Now we get a reset. One player of impact is back. We'll get to the roster stuff after the commercial break. But this team is not going to be preseason #1. It's not going to be preseason #2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, maybe not even 8. What do you make of what Kansas has been versus what it can be or will be or should be this upcoming season?
I mean, they did a poor job of building the roster the last few seasons. I think, in hindsight, you can clearly see that now. Bill will push back a little bit. 2 years ago, he feels like before Kevin McCullough got hurt, they had a chance to, maybe be pretty good. That team beat Connecticut. On its good days, it looked pretty good, but it had to really everything had to go right. Same thing for last year. Beat Duke early. Everything had to really fall in a line and go right for those teams. There wasn't a lot of room for error. Obviously, they have not made good decisions in the portal. I think they were more intentional this year in the portal as far as finding guys that fit how they wanted to play, how Bill Self has traditionally played, wanting more athleticism, wanting guys that can really guard. I think they've seen kind of err in their ways of going and getting guys like Nick Timberlake or Rylan Griffin, who defensively just don't fit a Bill Self system. So we can get into the roster in a little bit, and it's to be seen if how that'll go. But there needed to be an identity change as far as what they're looking for in the portal and how they build this thing out. And they've obviously tried to go a different way with this one, and we'll see how it goes.
Before we get to the break, it's trivia time. You ready for a trivia?
Oh boy,
let's go. When is so I mentioned how Kansas is not going to have a preseason top 5 ranking. Probably not preseason top 10, although it's conceivable. We'll see what the AP voters do.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a variety of off-season top 25 type rankings, and Kansas isn't populated in the top 10 of most of those. When is the last time, year, season KU did not crack the preseason AP top 10, CJ Moore?
Okay, let's see here.
Can you pull it out?
Now, after the 20 season and 21, you would think they probably wouldn't have been, but I bet they still were up there.
They were. Still up there, yes. After the 2020-21 season, so going into 21-22, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Preseason number 3.
It would either be like 09 or 13.
It's neither. In 09, they were preseason number 1. Now 08, 09, 08, they were preseason number 24, but that's not the most recent.
No. Sorry. 08, 09 is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so they weren't. Yeah, because 9-10 they were a juggernaut.
Yeah.
But what were they on 08, 09?
And 08, 09 they were preseason 24, which is the last time they weren't even preseason top 20. But The last time and the only other time.
12-13 is what I'm talking about, the
Nope.
Jeff Withey year.
They were 12-13, they were 7. 11-12, 2011-2012, they were 13th. They were 13th going into that season.
That was a swing and miss by the media because that team was really, really good.
Exactly.
Well, wait, 11-12. Sorry, 11-12.
No, it still was a swing and miss. They were 13th
that team made
season.
That team made the title game, but
Correct.
the 10-11 is what I was thinking about. I was first in my head. I was going there because that team was way better than the 11-12 team, even though they lost to VCU.
Yeah, the 11-12 team, 13th, and which is still plenty respectable. Just wasn't projected top 10 that season. But that team did make the title game. Was a 2 seed. First team All-American, Thomas Robinson on the roster, Tyshawn Taylor, Jeff Withey, Elijah Johnson. Lost the championship game to that great Kentucky team. But yeah, it's been a minute. I do think Kansas will be outside the top 10 in the AP Top 25 when that gets made official in October. Is the reduction on expectations nationally, is that a factor in how this team will perform? Is it a good thing for Kansas? Who's on the roster? What is on deck here for year 23 in Lawrence for Bill Self? We'll get to that right after this break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, CJ, how about this? I will list off everyone who's gone, and then I'll tee you up on the guys that are actually on the roster. That sound good?
Perfect.
All right, so here's who's no longer on the Kansas Jayhawks, at least who had of some impact a season ago. There's a couple other bit players here that I'm not going to mention, but most notably Hunter Dickinson, gone. Zeke Mayo, gone. He was, by the way, almost averaged 15 points a game last season, did Mayo. KJ Adams, long career, gone. DeJuan Harris, gone. Rylan Griffin, who was brought in to help fix three-point woes, 6.3 points a game last season. He's gone. AJ Storr, similarly, gone. 6 points a game last season. David Coy, 5 points per game. So they're all gone. Let's talk about who is here. And let's start with who is back. So the notable guys who have spent time in a Kansas uniform that you think will have impact before we get to the transfers, before we get to the freshmen. And you better believe we're talking plenty about Mr. Peterson here in just a second. Who's back and who's of note? Who do you think will be a factor on this roster this season, CJ?
Well, obviously, Flory Dunga is the huge one. Went into the portal. There was rumors of Indiana. There was thoughts he was going elsewhere. For KU to get him back, that was a big win this past spring. He is locked in the starting center. I think there's 3 givens in the starting lineup. We can get to that later, but Flory's one of them. Jamari McDowell redshirted last year. Best case scenario, he's on like that Travis Relaford plan where redshirt's in the middle of his career and, maybe ends up being a guy that really, really helps you his last couple of years. So Jamari, I'd see him as probably like the 11th guy on this team. But he has a shot at real run if he beats out some guys, that you would think maybe on the depth chart or in front of him. And then the other one that, maybe some people have forgotten about, but was expected a couple of years ago to be a one and done first round pick. And thought of really, really highly coming out of high school, got hurt last summer and sat out the entire season. Elmarco Jackson is back. That's it as far as scholarship guys that have been on the roster. Yeah,
it's significant change. Elmarco, interested to see what he can be this season coming back. Does he emerge as a guy who really can transform and change Kansas into a top 10 level team, or is it going to be a season where he's going to have his moments, 2 steps forward, 1 step back in terms of recovery, development, progression, and then, is his moment waiting for him a year from now when there isn't a potential number 1 pick on the roster? We'll see. Transfer wise, what do the folks need to know about who was brought in over the past few months in Lawrence?
We'll start with the guy that I think is close to a lock as a starter. 4th school in 4 years, Trey White. They've been really, really happy with Trey this summer. Trey's not a great shooter, but he's done a good job, I think, of hitting corner threes this summer. He can make them with time and his feet are set. And just a guy that knows how to play, has been around a long time. Played a type of role at Illinois last year that I think he'll kind of play this year at Kansas. So like good glue type guy, can play that small ball 4 spot, can also slide over to the 3. So I think Trey's a guy that I would put in that front court as a projected starter. The other 2, Melvin Council Jr. played a ton of minutes last year for St. Bonaventure, was probably one of the best 10 players in that league. Really, really fast guy. Compared him to Tyshawn Taylor when they signed him. Bill thinks he's one of the big keys to their season this year. He's a guy, one thing that bugged him last year is I think they didn't have guys that could get just off the dribble, just get past you, get his shoulders past you and get downhill. And Council's one of those guys that they brought in to do that. And then the other one is Jaden Dawson, shooter from Loyola Chicago. I think he was a second team A-10 guy, kind of a streaky shooter who can really, when he gets going, he can pour it in. Pretty good athlete. I liked him watching his tape in the portal, and he'll have a chance to potentially start. Although there's somebody in that spot that I think has outplayed him this summer. We can get to that here in a minute.
Okay. Council averaged 15 a game, or just shy of it with the Bonnies, like a slender 2-man. Dawson, 14 a game with Loyola Chicago. Trey White, he's like a 6'7" wing. He did average double-digit points last season with the Illini. So we've got who is returning, who's new in the portal, and then let's get to the newbies here. And we're going to specifically save Darryn Peterson. He's 6'4", 6'5" lead guard, number 1 player, 247 Sports. Potential number 1 pick. We're going to save him for last. Okay. So everyone else, because Kansas actually has had an intriguing summer because it has brought on or it did bring on players later in the process. So they've got a variety of newbies and fresh faces here. I want your rundown on the guys and then who you think winds up being impactful. Any starters in here? If not, first or second guy off the bench. So among the fresh-faced freshmen, Peterson aside, who's here and who should we expect to make some noise?
All right, so I really like Cole Rosario. They signed him late in the spring. He got off to an awesome start in EYBL. I believe he played 7 games for CP3. Was shooting the heck out of it. He runs the floor super, super hard. Great in transition. Pretty good bouncy athlete. To me, like self-compared him to Christian Brown, and then I pushed back on Bill. I was like, I think he's more like an Ochai. So I think Kansas fans are getting a guy that's kind of like an Ochai, 6'4", 6'5"-ish, plays really hard, good offensive rebounder. I think he's the perfect Bill Self player because he's simple. He knows what he does well. He likes shooting threes. He likes offensive rebounding and finishing at the rim. There's not going to be a lot of trying to shake dudes, trying to go get his own. He's just going to fit in where he fits in. And I think that he had a really, really good summer. I think they were really pleased with how he played. He's what I would say would be the surprise, maybe starter for them in that 3 spot. Other guys they brought in, Sami's Calderon, who's kind of a project at 3-4 athlete type. Also, I think a little further along than maybe they thought when they signed him. He's a guy that's got a shot at getting real minutes, but it's crowded. It's crowded on the wing. They've got a lot of bodies. I think they've got way more depth than they had last year. They've got 11 guys I think are capable of playing. Bryson Tiller is a guy that signed that came early last year. I think he came at semester, was hurt. So got to see things and be around the program. Offensively, he's pretty skilled. I was talking to Bill this spring. He kind of compared him to the Morris twins a little bit. I got to see him this summer one time, and offensively, he's pretty dang good. I think defensively, he's got a little ways to go, but he gives their front court some depth. He can play both at 4 or 5, probably more of a 4. And then the new one that you were alluding to that came really late is Paul. And man, I don't want to butcher his last name.
You butcher names on the pod. Join the group, buddy. Hop in the pool. Let's go.
No, you ready for this?
Okay.
I got him saying it. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Do we get that? That comes
all
through?
Mbia.
Mbia.
Okay.
All right. So Paul is a kid that was originally committed to NC State. Huge, like 7 foot, and I think he's got like some stupid like a 7'11" wingspan or something like that.
7'11"?
It's or something. It's something ridiculous. You have to do a real time fact check on that.
Yeah.
I think his wingspan is very large. I'm maybe 7'9". It's it's a plus.
Wingspan.
7'11" would be crazy, but I know it's big. Let's see here.
Check it out. Well, he does that. He is from the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
7'8".
7'8". Okay, 7'8" and 7'11". Vastly different.
A little different.
Always a fact check. And he played in a high level French pro league where he was definitely prolific. Keep going. But also, are we thinking like this is a situation where Flory's playing like 27 minutes and he's playing 13 because they wouldn't play at the same time? Just what should we be expecting out of him? Or is he still? I don't know. He was productive in a really good international league. I have to assume he's going to get real burn here.
Yeah, no, I think he will. I think he plays like maybe 15 minutes a game or something like that, but maybe could be higher depending on how he does. Excuse me. But Flory will play some 4 just like he did last year with Hunter. I think he'll play a little. I mean, I think he'll most of the time he'll be at the 5, but I do think, especially if Paul is a guy that demands minutes based on how good he is. And I haven't seen him live yet. But I do think Bill will throw out some big lineups with Flory and him together. Bryson will combine with one of those guys, and they'll have big lineups then. But I also think they're going to have times where I think they'll start small with Trey at the 4. I think you could see scenarios where like Jaden Dawson plays some small ball 4. So he's got a lot of Sami's Calderon can also play some 4. I think you have to fact check me here. I think he's like 6. Sami's is like 6'8". But he's kind of that 3-4, more of a 4 type in college. So they have a variety of lineups that they can definitely throw out there. The 2 battles I think in the preseason that are most interesting to watch will be whoever starts next to Peterson at guard. I think he'll throw a combo guard out there, and I think it'll either be Melvin Council Jr. or Marco Jackson. I'm a slight maybe lean to Marco, but I think that one's really, really up in the air. Could go either way. And then Cole Rosario and Jaden Dawson, like they're going to want a bona fide shooter in the starting lineup. One of those guys will be out there. The other will be one of the first, whoever loses those 2 position battles will probably be, maybe the first 2 off the bench. I'm a Cole Rosario lean right now. I really think he fits well next to Peterson.
Keep in mind, Cole Rosario, 72nd in his class, decided to reclass and jump on in. But just, for folks that might not be aware, we're not talking about a guy who was, a 5-star top 15 player in the class. That doesn't mean he won't be really, really good and can't be that immediately. If indeed he's a perfect Bill Self kind of player, he can do that. I know when he decided to do this and hop on board at KU and reclass and all that, there was a lot of excitement there. And while this can be the case for a lot of teams from where they are on roster wise, April 10 versus where they look up and they are on June 10, I know Kansas's situation, I think fairly, it just drastically improved to where I think, because I still think Bill Self is among the 3 best coaches in the sport. Sorry, I don't think he's lost it. I think Kansas as a top 10 team has a real case here. Now let's get to Darryn Peterson because it all is about this guy. He is someone who Bill Self has claimed I'm not going to say I think he has said Peterson is the most talented recruit he has ever brought into Kansas, which is hello. And Bill Self doesn't speak like this. When he says these things, it's not like, oh, you can go back to 6 other times when he said this over the past, 12 recruiting cycles or 12 seasons or whatever. Doesn't talk like that. So when he says that, it really pops. Now, you and I both saw Peterson plenty as a recruit. For anyone watching or listening that hasn't seen him yet, CJ, you take it. How I could, but you're the guest here. I want you to step up and shine. How would you describe Darryn Peterson's game? What are your expectations of him this season? And is he truly a talent that is good enough to be the best player in the sport, to carry Kansas to a sea line or two better than it otherwise would be if he wasn't on the roster, to get Kansas this upcoming season to the places that Kansas fans hoped they would be the past 2 seasons when obviously they had that gaudy preseason ranking.
Yeah, you're always hesitant to get too crazy in the hyperbole with freshmen, but he is a special one. And I believe what Bill has said is something to the effect of he is the most prepared, like ready to come in and be impactful as a freshman that he's ever had. I think that's kind of been his phrasing. And I agree. I mean, I think that watching him play, it's like and watching him with this current Kansas group, it's like we're watching a guy that's like a senior that has really been around and understands how to play and how he should play. He's a really, really good scorer, but that's not what makes him special. What makes him special, I think, is he sees the floor incredibly well. He can make all the passes. He just understands how to actually make, a lot of these, like I'll use DeBance is an incredible talent, right? Mm-hmm. But does like, what does AJ do to make others better? We'll see. Like, I don't know right now. We'll see. I think he's going to be a really good college player, but like he's a good individual talent. I think this kid will make everybody else around him look really, really good. I think Flory's going to really benefit from playing with him. And like this is his and Flory's team. And Flory is walking around like a guy too. Like I know this, we'll get back to Peterson, but Flory's walking around like a guy that like, hey, it's my time now. This is my group. He's got like an edge to him that I don't know that we saw last year, that I think he's in for, he's about to have a really, really good sophomore year. And I think as a pick and roll tandem, like I think they'll be terrific because Peterson is going to be able to throw those lobs. He's going to be able to read the MIG at the basket and say, hey, he's helping. I'm going to throw it out to Rosario and he can make a three. So I do think the pieces are kind of fit well for the most part around him. And I think he's going to be terrific.
Yeah, he's certainly got a chance to be the best player in the sport. Don't know if he will be or he won't.
Yeah.
Braden Smith might wind up being the most impactful guard in the sport, but Peterson has a grace and physicality combo as a lead guard that is not common, particularly as a freshman in college basketball. I'm not going to call him unique. I'm not going to say he's one of one because I don't think that would be an accurate description. But there will be a magnetism to his game that will be undeniable. And we have a very good freshman class again. So this is 2 straight years in a row, in particular with college basketball, where it had a lull, it had a dip, no doubt about it, in terms of one and done talent and pop and big names and just charismatic players. We had it last season, and we'll get it again next season. We're going to have 7 or 8 first year players that are going to step in, and you're going to want to watch them, and they're going to be highly productive. And Peterson, because of what he's going to be asked to do, and because of his physical capabilities and his on-floor IQ and what he can do, and he's got as good of a chance as anyone as a first-year player to really step up and pop. But CJ, I'm so glad you brought up with Flory because I agree with you, because there is a lot of hope that Flory is going to be a guy that is going to emerge and not be a completely different player, but you're just going to see someone that's grown in an all-around game perspective, like 3-4 sizes from what he was a season ago. And I think those two, their alchemy on the court, I think, is going to be big. All the other pieces, all the other players we talked about, yes, they all have to contribute in order to have Kansas be a Big 12 title contender, to get back into the conversation to be a potential 1, 2, or 3 seed. But to me, it really is the nucleus of Peterson truly taking command. Can he do it as a freshman? And Flory making the jump that we expect him to make. Now he's going to have good competition in terms of other guys that are going to be there, Tiller, Mbia, and what they can do and what they can produce. But to me, it comes down to those two and how they play off each other. Have you gotten a chance, by the way, and like, has Bill let you or others in the media just get a chance to really see them in a full sweat using drills? Have you at least gotten to see some sort of concept with this to this point, or is that to come later this fall?
I did see a scrimmage, and Peterson was really good, and Flory looks bigger, and he was dunking everything. Their defense wasn't too far along yet, I'd say, but offensively They look pretty good.
Okay, defense wasn't too well. That's.
But he's excited about the defense. He's excited about the length and athleticism and speed. And part of it was just like guys getting picked apart and pick and roll, and those coverages aren't really put in yet in July. But
that's gonna happen.
But I do think defensively they have a chance to be way better. They're gonna be way more aggressive. They had to hide Hunter the last couple of years.
Even like Hunter even had like a couple of moments where it was good, but defensively, I actually thought Kansas held its own for the most part. Was it top tier? No, but Bill Self
surprisingly high metrics.
Yeah. They actually sometimes you'd almost. It's why the analytics can actually help you. Like sometimes you don't believe, what's telling you when you're watching the games. But Kansas was a solid defensive team, and this group has a chance to be, top 5, top 7, top 8 if all the pieces come together. I think that's fair. Let's keep it moving and let's go to the schedule portion where we're going to look at the non-con, the Big 12. We're going to do a win prediction. You know how this whole thing goes, right?
Yeah, I've listened to a few of them. Preparation.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Are you subscribed, CJ Moore? Are you subscribed to the pod? Can you do that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, appreciate that. You can. You know what? If you want to rank me 3 stars for the the cheeky
comment.
Yeah, that's completely
that's fine.
All right,
I am a cheap ass. If you talk to my friends,
well, there we go. There we go. We sussed it out. Okay, Kansas's non-con schedule. 8 games of note here. At North Carolina, here, this is why I love Bill Self. He has 2 high major non-conference road games. And while you can find some here or there, that is not the expectation. He gets it done.
Shoot.
Yep, that's right.
Coaches.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been, we've talked about this on a few shows, but we've got a really, really good non-conference across the board in college basketball. Kansas Healthy helps provide for that. So at North Carolina on November 7th, that's the first week of the season. Then the next game of note is November 18th, Duke Madison Square Garden. And just as a reminder, this hasn't been brought up yet on the shoot-arounds. Champions Classic, which used to open the season, is now 2 full weeks into the start of the season. Not the worst thing in the world. I did like it when it was early, but essentially those schools lobbied to ESPN to get that bump back. They won that battle. Season is now starting earlier in November as is. So Champions Classic happens later. That's the second big game. Then they're going to be in the Players era. That's November 24 to 26. Now they've got Notre Dame and Syracuse first, and then to be determined. Theoretically, this sets up Kansas to play for the title because Notre Dame and Syracuse aren't projected NCAA tournament teams. If Kansas gets the job done, there's going to be a lot of teams that go 2-0, but you get into the title game based on your margin of victory. So if they really rock it, like it's kind of on a tee for KU. We'll see if they can do that. They host UConn on December 2nd. They will go to UConn the season after this one. That's a 2-year series, but they host the Huskies again. They play Missouri and Kansas City on December 7th, and then they are at NC State on December 13th. Love to see that. That game was scheduled before Will Wade was even the coach, but now it sets up with even more intrigue overall. So that is the non-con games of note. And then in the Big 12, we still do not have a Big 12 schedule. Maybe we'll get one by next week, but I actually think we're still 2 weeks out from getting that Big 12 schedule. We'll see if they can get it done behind the scenes here relatively quickly. The 2 plays for Kansas this season, Arizona, Iowa State, and then, of course, K-State. I think if you're a Kansas fan, all told, okay, nice. Home only, Baylor, BYU. Remember, they went to BYU last year and got trounced. So BYU comes back. They don't do a 2-play there. Cincinnati, Houston, TCU, and Utah. Road only, Arizona State, UCF, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. There you go, West Virginia. But there's really only one roadie as it stands right now where it's, not that they can't get picked off here or there, but there's really just the Tech one is the only one from a road standpoint that stands out. 31-game regular season for one more year. CJ Moore, what is Kansas's record when they head into the Big 12 tournament?
All right, so that Big 12 schedule is pretty advantageous for them, I think.
I would agree with you. Although they Arizona, Iowa State, they got to handle, and then K-State, it's tough going on the road. But all told, I think you're happy if you're a Kansas fan.
Yeah. So we'll go with the loss. We'll count it out in the losses. I think between the North Carolina and Duke game, they probably drop one of those.
Okay.
Between the Players era, let's call it championship, which I'd say they're probably going to play I looked at it. I'm going to guess a Michigan or a St. John's is the opponent in that one.
Yeah, could be Houston. We'll see.
Can they play Houston?
They
How's that
can.
work?
Yes, I understand it right now, they could still theoretically play Houston. Whether
okay,
but
yeah.
But let's say they don't.
Positive. I was, yeah. Let's either any of those three. That's a really freaking tough game.
Yes.
Between that and UConn at home, I say one of those two is probably lost. Like they go 1-1 in that stretch. I'll say they beat Mizzou at T-Mobile. I'll say they win at NC State, but that's a tough one. That could easily be a loss. I'm going to say one loss between the home games, Arizona, BYU, Houston, or Iowa State. I say they drop one at home. And then I'm going to say their road losses are Texas Tech, Iowa State, Arizona, and probably one more. I'd put them at 13-5 in the Big 12, 24-7 entering the Big 12 tournament. Probably sitting 2-3 seed at that point.
Okay. 2 years ago, Kansas going into the Big 12 was 22-9. Last season, 20-11 heading into the Big 12 tournament. That's not going to be the situation this year. I think that this team is. I do think not having this preseason number one expectation, having some turnover. I haven't talked to Bill about this at all yet, but I have to imagine this guy is going to be hell-bent on reminding the college basketball world who's who and what's what, and Kansas is going to get it's going to get back into gear. Listeners to the Summer Shootaround know that I sometimes lean to be a little less optimistic, almost just as a hesitation. I'm not going to do that with Kansas. I am going to also, this is 2 shows, 2 guests in a row with the same record. We're going to agree. I'll say 24-7, but a very good 24-7. The non-con is so competitive that they're going to take some losses, and there's no shame in it when they do, whether it's 2 or 3, and then they figure it out in Big 12 play, and I'll say Kansas is no worse than tied for second in the Big 12 in the regular season this year. I love how this schedule sets up for them. I think they are going to make a big bounce back. And a lot of it is based on believing in Peterson and what he can be, what he will be. Marco Jackson was a guy who, before he even committed to Kansas, I was big on as a long-term college player, and I think that he will show and be a real impactful player after obviously missing last season, the entire season due to injury. So we are on the same page there. 24-win season for Kansas, 24-7 going into the Big 12 tournament. I think there's even a chance they're in the conversation as one of the final 1 seeds. If not, that's 2 seed territory, and I think it's a strong return there overall. Before we get to Big 12, just real quick, the point I just made, CJ, maybe you think it doesn't mean anything, but just not having. It's Kansas on a certain level. You're going to have a target. I get that. But there is a difference. Like if the AP poll comes out and Kansas is, say, 14th in the country or 12th, that's different than having a 1, a 2, or a 3. If they're 14th, they're not going to be the preseason pick to win the league. Do you think that benefits the staff? A lot of these players didn't have to experience this the past couple of years, but I wonder if you think that stuff matters at all heading into the season.
I lean towards the side of it doesn't matter that much. Like we were just, the media was dumb last year that high.
By the way, I was not on that train. Just I want to make that perfectly clear.
I think I had them like
Auburn and Iowa State. I was not on the Kansas as the best team in the turn.
I had them like maybe preseason 5 or something like that. I can't remember. So I was too high as well. But yeah, the groupthink was off. I do think that you're right in that Bill Self is going to be very motivated to tell everybody that he hasn't lost anything. He's still got it. It was just two outlier seasons in what has been his history of having really, really consistently good teams year in and year out. So hopefully we both look smart here, and the 24-7 looks smart. Although I think, I'll go back to your last episode I listened to. You guys are too low on Louisville. I think that might be one of the best rosters in. I think that might be one of the best rosters in college basketball.
Yeah. Okay. I thought I was pretty ambitious. Listen, Parrish has him like 18th. I don't know what you want.
I don't know what he's doing there.
We'll get Louisville fans that you're listening. If you're dialed into the Kansas episode, don't worry. GP will have plenty of time to talk on his Cardinals. Fear not. All right, Big 12. Let's wrap with this. last season ranked third in Ken Palm. This is after it was the number one conference the 3 years prior. And, for many of the past 12 years, the Big 12 was number one. It was not that last year. It's inarguable. It had 7 bids to the tournament. It did have Houston, which almost won the national championship, but it didn't win. So 25-26, take a stab. How many bids for the league, and where do you think it falls by year's end? 1, 2, 3. It's kind of hard to picture how the Big 12 could be fourth or worse. So 1, 2, or 3 Big 12 conference strength this season.
So I think the league is better. I'll say you said 7 teams last year, right?
Yeah,
I'll
7.
say,
Houston was a 1, Tech a 3, Arizona a 4, BYU was a 6, Iowa State was a 3, Kansas was a 7, and Baylor was a 9. And then West Virginia controversially didn't make it in.
Yeah, I think that all the teams that made it last year will make it again. And then you'll have one more get in, whether that's West Virginia, K-State, Cincinnati, probably one of those 3. I think Colorado could maybe be sneaky and be decent again.
Do you really?
But
okay.
We'll see. But no, I think the league from top to bottom is better. But the Big Ten and SEC are still really, really good. So I'm going to say the Big 12 is probably third, but could maybe be in that 2 spot. And I'll say maybe the Big Ten hops over the SEC this year is number 1.
Okay. That's a sneaky little spicy take. I'll take that spice. Houston, Tech, Arizona, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas are all getting back to the tournament. You said all of them will make it back. Baylor should. It turned over its entire roster.
That one's up in the air, but
we'll see.
I'll believe in Scott Drew, but
we'll see. Yep, but there's something.
Yeah, we'll see.
No doubt about it. No doubt. West Virginia, we wait and see. Ross Hodge, really good coach. Can he make some impact year 1? Kansas State, you would think they won't be what they were last year when they were a huge letdown. A lot of changes there. Cincinnati, hot seat season for Wes Miller. We'll wait on that. And then, Colorado, Arizona State, not expected to be that good. Oklahoma State, Steve Lutz is a good coach. Can will there be a team that will Alex Jensen in year 1 immediately make an impact? In this very league, Kevin Young was a year ahead of schedule. I mean, they were a 6 seed, 26-win team. Will you get something like that in the Big 12? I'm not sure, but I do think they will have at least 8 bids. I do think the league will be improved this year. You look across the board, and it was a slight step back. So we'll wait and see. Please go read CJ Moore's stuff. I mean this. He is one of the best writers in America. He does a wonderful job chronicling college basketball over at The Athletic. More than happy to have him on and talk Kansas and all the good stuff. Always look forward to anything he writes. Very, very versatile. Can write on the X and O's. Really good feature writer. Keeps up with a ton of stuff. They do good work over there. And hey, bud, I appreciate you having you on the show. Are you the best hooper still in college basketball media? I did not play the media pickup game last year, so I need a quick rundown where you stand in the overall hierarchy.
I think I'm up there. Isaac Trotter, right? With 24/7.
Yeah.
Very good player.
Yeah.
And CBS.
He's also, Trotter's like 26.
He's a young buck.
Yeah.
He's a young buck. We were on the same team. We ran things this year.
Okay.
My guys, 3-man weave, all part of every part of the weave can play.
They can, but I think the aging process is catching up to them faster than they would like.
They looked good. I think 2 of the 3 of the weave were there last year. They still looked good.
Yeah.
But I'm still playing, 3 times a week, sometimes 4 maybe. So I still got it.
Dedicated to the game, man. Love to see it. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I was not able to make the media pickup game in San Antonio. We got a Hinkle Indy next year. Got to make it happen.
I'm running it now.
You're in charge.
I'll make sure that happens.
Make sure that happens. And
if anybody at Butler's listening,
we'll make the call to make sure that happens. But if ever, like the one where we don't have to worry about getting people to show up is we're running a pickup game at Hinkle like that.
Legendary.
That is yes, correct. Got to do that back in. It's been a minute now. Got 2015 because the 21 tournament was in Indy, but. Hello, Hinkle was hosting the tournament. It was COVID. We couldn't do it. So looking forward to getting that back. This has been a long episode, but it's been worth it. Kansas is super fascinating. You can follow CJ Moore on Twitter and on Blue Sky. I appreciate you joining, buddy, and I look forward to seeing you down the way. Maybe we'll see at Big 12 Media Day later this fall.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on.
No problem. Gary Parrish and I are going to reconvene. We are going to get back together. The next episode we'll have both of us on. You can look forward to that. Won't be too long. But till then, take care.